Hi folks, it's me again. As I shared before, my name is Alice Chen. I am the creator and designer of the Leadership Development Track for Summer Pre-Service, and we are now taking a look at the Focal Coaching Skills document. So I wanted to take a moment to kind of give you a little bit of the background information, the why and the how behind this section of the design, so that as you go on to internalize and set yourself up to really facilitate this 20-minute block of the Tuesday protocol, that you are able to place that within the larger context. So appreciate you jumping on and excited to talk to you about the why and the how. So part of self-driven learning is being able to identify and to articulate the challenges that you're trying to solve, and in many ways the support that you need in order to solve them, and to leverage the insight and collective support of the staff members around you and the colleagues that you come into contact with on a day-to-day basis. And yet what we've seen from core members over the years is that asking for and effectively giving and receiving support might sound easy, right? It might sound like something we're all on board with, but in practice we found that it's a lot more difficult for our first year core members in their stress, oftentimes in their youth, to actually be able to practice. Because it's real, right? It can be hard to articulate exactly what I'm struggling with as a teacher. When I care a lot about my work and I don't necessarily feel super confident with the things that I'm doing, it can be really hard and feel really vulnerable to invite help. And it can be really hard to receive it, particularly when help and support carries with it both celebration and critique. And in many ways, when I'm really stressed as a teacher and I'm focused on my own stuff, it can be hard to pick my head up and look around and really meaningfully support someone else. And yet, what we've found is that our most effective core members are the ones who are getting out of the weeds, building community with the people around them, really being able to ask for support when they need it and to receive it, and then being able to do that and being willing to do that for the people around them. So therefore, one of the goals of our leadership development track this summer is to equip core members with the functional skills that they need in order to be able to meaningfully coach and support each other. And to do this, we've set up recurring spaces for core members to practice articulating a bunch of different types of challenges that they are facing in their instruction and in their leadership, and to be able to seek the wisdom and support of their colleagues, all while maintaining the ultimate responsibility for making decisions that move their practice as teachers forward. And so that's why we have the Tuesday case clinic. That's why we have the Thursday coaching protocols. Those are about the spaces. As an additional component of our effort to build strong coaching and support skills in our core members, each week we are asking facilitators to explicitly teach a new focal coaching skill. And we're asking our facilitators to do that on Tuesdays prior to the start of the case clinic. And then we're asking our facilitators to encourage our core members to practice and debrief their use of this skill throughout the course of the week. So for example, if on Tuesday during the case clinic protocol, I as a core member am engaging with the focal skill of listening in powerful ways, then I'm going to practice that during the case clinic on Tuesday. I'm going to practice it during our mindfulness work on Wednesday, and I'm going to practice that during the peer coaching protocol on Thursday. Ideally, I'm also practicing that outside of these pre-articulated spaces, but at the very least, we're seeking to build muscle memory by having core members practice through the arc of those 3 sessions and time. And ultimately, we're hoping that by the conclusion of summer pre-service, our core members will have had the opportunity to add multiple coaching skills to their toolkit that are going to enable them to be able to be better support and coaches to each other. And then also they'll have these tools in their tool belt that they can then turn around and use in the classroom in their interactions with students. Because we know that oftentimes a really student-centered culture, a student-centered classroom, a place where students are really being held accountable and responsible for generating insights and action steps and doing the heavy lifting of learning. Teachers are operating and positioning themselves as coaches. And so our goal here is both to equip our core members with coaching skills that they can leverage in support of each other and the growth of their own practice, but also that they can turn around and utilize in the classroom with their students. So we've kind of got a twofold twofold purpose here, but we believe that a huge component of that is making sure that core members are explicitly learning some of the coaching skills, and that we're not just saying to them, go ahead and coach your peer, go ahead and support your peer, but that we're actually doing that with some strong language and some strong learning before it. So all that is to say that as a facilitator of the leadership development track, this coming summer, there's going to be a couple of things that you are responsible for. So as a facilitator of the leadership development track this summer, you are going to be responsible for teaching and reinforcing the focal coaching skills that you see below in the chart. So in week 1, core members are going to be learning and practicing the focal skill of listening well. In week 2, they're going to focus on asking great questions. In week 3, they're going to be focused on learning how to acknowledge and validate each other and their students. In week 4, they're going to be focusing on learning how to mirror and challenge each other in thoughtful ways that feel both supportive and that take practice to the next level. In week 5, they're going to be building some skill around championing and celebrating each other and their students. And then in week 6, they're going to have a chance to kind of go back and reflect on all of the skills that they've learned throughout the summer, right? So listening, questions, acknowledgement and validation, mirroring and challenging, and championing and celebrating, and kind of assess where they're at so that they can look forward and think about what that means for the development that they want to engage in throughout the fall. So each week, you are going to have 20 minutes to teach one of these focal skills during the Tuesday case clinic. You'll teach it before you actually move into the case clinic. And we've already organized which skill you should teach on which week so that we can ensure that all of the skills are building appropriately on each other throughout the course of this summer. And you'll see that we've also gathered together a variety of different resources and recommendations to help you prepare for this 20-minute section. You are ultimately going to be responsible for taking these resources and translating them into a mini lesson that makes sense for your group. So rather than scripting everything out for you, what we're asking you to do is actually take the initiative, do the internalization work, think about the context of the people that you are working with, and craft a 20-minute mini lesson that really works for them. Keep in mind that the ultimate purpose of these 20 minutes is to make sure that core members know what the focal skill is, why it matters, and what it looks like to employ it. So for example, in week 1, if the focal skill is listening well, however you get to it, by the time a core member walks out of your session, they should know what it means to listen well, why listening well matters in their classroom, and also in the context of supporting their colleagues, and then what listening well actually looks like. So they should be able to have all 3 of those different components. And in addition to knowing those things, they should walk out of your time having had a chance to practice the skill in isolation in a low stakes context before they actually go ahead and leverage it during the case clinic and the peer coaching protocols. Okay. So I'm going to give you a sense of how I might prepare for this 20-minute block using the example of the focal skill for week 1. So as you listen to me walk through this preparation, I think it would be helpful for you to have your facilitator's guide open to the focal coaching skills document so that you can kind of click through and see where my train of thought is going. I'm going to model how I would prep and get ready to facilitate this section. I also just want to acknowledge up front that there are many, many different ways to prepare, and that the way that I do this might not totally align with how you would do it. So this example is not to say you absolutely 100% must prepare this way, as long as you are getting to those outcomes that I just walked you through, right? Core members knowing what the focal skill is, why it matters, what it looks like to employ it, and having a chance to kind of try it on in isolation before they jump into the case clinic. You can prepare in whatever way makes sense to you, but also wanted to give you the resource and the opportunity to kind of see how I might think through that. Okay. All right, so the first thing that I would do is I would look at the chart to see which focal skill I'm teaching this week. So I noticed that for week 1, what I'm teaching during that 20-minute Tuesday block is listening well. So then I would click on the one-pager link in the skill resources column to get a sense of the what and the why and the how of this skill. So those one-pagers are one-pagers that I put together that kind of give an overview of each one of the skills. They could be core member facing. And so they're designed so that they could be core member facing. So you could potentially print those out and give them to core members as a resource. So as I look at this one-pager link under listening well, I notice that there are 5 main types of listening. And I notice that listening matters particularly in a classroom because it kind of helps a teacher understand what's really going on with a student and therefore sort of respond to the root cause of any sort of challenge. I noticed that in the paragraph on the one-pager, there isn't a ton of rationale that's been given for why listening matters in coaching a colleague. And so one of the things that I'd be thinking to myself is, oh, okay, well, the context that my core members are going to first use this info in is coaching a colleague. So I might want to build out that rationale. And so when I think about that, I think, oh, okay, well, listening matters in the context of our case clinic and our peer coaching protocols because when we listen really well, it's going to help us understand what's really going on with our colleagues, right? What some of the things underneath the surface of the challenges that they're articulating actually are. And in that sense, it's going to aid us in asking better coaching questions, giving more aligned perspective, and just generally being better supporters to the people around us. So I'm going to make sure that I build that rationale in somewhere in my 20-minute focal coaching skill mini lesson. Okay, other things, as I'm looking at this one-pager, I'm thinking, wow, this is a really great resource. I think I might actually want to print this out for my core members to have on hand because I noticed that at the bottom of the one-pager, there are actually some suggestions for how they can get better at listening. And I think about our summer pre-service principles, which are a lot around driving your own learning. And I think if I was a core member and I had that document in front of me and some of the suggestions, I might be better prepared to drive my own learning. So I think I'm going to print that out. Other things that I'm thinking, I'm clicking back to the focal coaching skills document now, and I'm clicking through some of the other hyperlinks in the skill resource column. I really love this TED Talk about 5 ways to listen better. I think that my core members might actually benefit from me sending this out to them as follow-up. It's a little bit inspirational. It's got some strategies. I don't actually think that we are going to have enough time to watch it during the 20-minute mini lesson and get to all of the other stuff that we need to. So I'm just going to bookmark this resource and plan to send it out afterwards. I'm not necessarily going to use it as an opener in my mini lesson. I'm also clicking through the Mind Tools article, the Forbes articles. They're really helping me better understand what listening is and isn't. They talk about this idea of active listening and how to do it effectively. So all of these things are kind of helpful to me in building my own background, knowledge, and information. I could imagine a core member who wants more resources. I could say, hey, check these out. But don't think that I'm necessarily going to pull those resources into the mini lesson. Okay. So then I'm thinking to myself, well, I need to introduce the focal skill to my folks, and then I need to have them practice the skill in isolation during that 20-minute mini lesson. So on the focal coaching skills document, under the sample practice activity column, I notice that there is a sample activity. So I'm looking at that, and I kind of like the format, right? One partner is going to share an answer to a general question. The other partner is going to be listening and then responding from these 5 different levels. So that feels right to me. I feel like I could do that. That's going to be simple and quick. I'm not sure if this question, what's going on in your life right now, is the best question for my group of people. I think I might want to contextualize it a little bit more. I think I might land on something like, what's top of mind for you in your classroom right now, so that people are really talking about their classroom. I think the more we can have classroom connections, the better. I really like these debrief questions, so I think I'm going to use those as well. So I've kind of walked through all of the different resources at my disposal, and as I've done that, I've made some decisions about what I'm going to utilize, where I'm going to utilize it, and where I'm kind of going to put things off to the side. So I think that I am now ready to arrange my 20 minutes. So here's how it's going to go. I'm going to print and pass out the Focal Coaching Skills one-pager with the rationale and types of listening to my folks so that they have it. I'm going to start that 20 minutes by briefly introducing why listening matters in the classroom and for our protocols. And then I'm going to whip through the 5 different types. So I think I'm just going to kind of write them on the board. I think I might even have posters up where I can kind of have them pre-articulated because I know 20 minutes is going to go really fast. I'm not going to be particularly constructivist in my approach because we just don't have a lot of time. So I'm just going to give the information. Core members have the sheet in front of them. They can kind of walk through it. And then I think I'm going to do the sample practice activity with them that was listed in the facilitator's guide. I'm just going to change the question from what's going on in your life right now to what's top of mind for you in your classroom right now. And I think I'm going to write that on chart paper so that we don't waste time by people asking me to repeat the question a million times. Great. Then I'm going to do that debrief just as it's articulated, same questions, probably going to have those pre-printed on a piece of paper as well. And then I'm just marking in my mind that this is going to have to be speedy in general. I actually am now going back to my bigger facilitator's guide for that Tuesday protocol, and I'm noticing that I have a little bit more time in week 1 than 20 minutes because there isn't a partner share back like there is in weeks 2 through 6. So I actually have 30 minutes, which is great. So I'm going to use 10 minutes to do that framing part and introduction part, giving the rationale, introducing the 5 types of listening, and then I'm going to do 20 minutes of that partner activity, right, where they're practicing listening at different levels and responding from those places. And then in that 20 minutes, I'll also make sure that I get to the debrief. All right. So then I'm just making a note of the prep work. I'm printing the one-pagers. I've got a bunch of posters I need to put up on the walls with the different types of listening, the debrief questions, and the discussion question. And I'm noticing we're going to be practicing these listening skills all week, so I definitely want to have visuals that we can kind of continue to come back to and keep it top of mind. All right, so I think I'm actually ready to go. I'm ready to go on that. So hopefully this walkthrough helped you think about how you might use the resources that have been provided here in the Facilitator's Guide in order to effectively prep and teach the focal skill each week. Like I said at the beginning, keep in mind that I modeled one way to potentially leverage the resources and kind of walked you through how I would think about that. As long as you meet the outcomes, right, which is to teach the focal skill and give core members a chance to practice it in isolation, and that you can do it in 20 minutes, I think it's fine to set up a plan that aligns with who you are and how you teach best. And then as always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. My email is below. I'm happy to be a resource in any way that I can. And once again, I just wanted to thank you all for all of the work that you're doing to help get our leadership development track off to a great start. And want to appreciate and acknowledge you in advance for all the great work that you will do with our core members this summer. We really would not be able to do this work without each and every one of you. So know that your time, your effort, and your energy really matters in the work that we do. So thank you. Thank you again.